Welcome to the Cambridge Financial Podcast with Bert Salazar, CEO at Cambridge Financial Partners, LLC. This podcast is all about tax-preferred retirement planning, economics, financial risk management, and achieving a risk-free and successful financial life. Now, your host, Bert Salazar. Bert Salazar. Bert Salazar.
Hey, good day everyone. Welcome to the Bert Salazar Retirement Show. My name is Bert Salazar and I am going to be the host to this podcast, and this is actually episode 161. So we've been doing this for quite a number of years, and I want to thank you all for the loyalty and the listening aspect of everything that you do, and then obviously all the feedback that I continue to receive regarding the podcast. So that's a good thing, and I'll continue to do this on a weekly basis for many, many years to come, hopefully. So the title of this episode is How Little You Truly Know About Retirement. And I'm going to try to bring it back down to the basics, because whenever something interesting or sad or challenging happens in your life, we all kind of take a look at it, and we go back and we try to figure out what went right and what went wrong and so forth. One of the things that I can tell you is that, wisdom comes from knowledge. Knowledge comes from experience, and experience comes from making, mistakes in throughout your life. So one of the things that I'm very good at is understanding the good, the bad, and the ugly of all the decisions that I have made for myself and my family and for my business, going back many years. So, obviously I do have a lot of experience, but that's because I've made a lot of mistakes along those lines and along the way. So my goal with each and every one of you is for you to learn from my mistakes as opposed to trying to learn from yours, because obviously smart people learn from the mistakes of others, not the mistakes that they make themselves. So the reason why I wanted to call this episode today, How Little You Truly Know About Retirement, is that I was watching a movie the other day, and I love baseball, and baseball is a game that I played, when I was in high school or even when I was in elementary school, but I played baseball through college. And I'm a Yankee fan, so Mickey Mantle was, one of my heroes back in the day. And Mickey Mantle said a long time ago that it's unbelievable how much you don't know about the game that you've been playing all your life. And, he was talking about baseball at that time. Well, I think we can apply the same rules of engagement not only to sports, but also to your personal and financial life. A few days ago, I lost my cousin, my beloved cousin, to COVID. And it's a reminder that tomorrow is promised to no one. My cousin was in excellent health. He was 61 years of age. He got sick with COVID. He pretty much refused to take the vaccine, and I'm not, telling anyone to take the vaccine, but I have done it. My family has done it. My wife has also taken the vaccine, and it's pretty sad because this was a senseless death. In other words, had he taken the vaccine, he wouldn't be dead today, and he was only 61 years of age, so he still had a lifetime to go. But it also brings me back to the things that I've seen once too often. In my 35 years now of a financial services career, I have done a lot of planning for clients, and I have also delivered quite a few death claims, because as my clients get older, obviously people are going to die, and I've done a lot of estate planning for years, and I do a lot of insurance planning and obviously retirement and tax planning along those lines. But, one of the things that I notice is that Mickey Mantle's statement is probably truer today than ever before when it comes to financial matters. And the other thing is, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Moneyball, but in the movie Moneyball, the story about the baseball game is that for many, many decades, and I would say for at least 100 years, teams have been buying players in order to win, playoffs and make it to the World Series and so forth. But in that movie, a statement was made that I thought it was very critical, and that, the game of baseball is not about buying players. It's about buying wins in baseball. So if you want to win the World Series or you want to participate in the playoffs, the more wins you get, the better off you're going to be. So at the end of the day, it's not about buying players, it's about buying wins. And that's where the mathematical aspect of baseball has come into play over the last 15 to 20 years. But the same thing can be applicable to financial matters. Most Americans, I would argue, don't understand the complexities of retirement and the complexities of financial decisions that they make every single day. And because of the fact that most of them don't understand how money works, they're making the wrong decisions at the wrong times, at the wrong time, and for the wrong reason. So my goal with each and every one of you every single week is to kind of provide you with education, because yes, anyone can provide you with information. And I have always said this, and I've said it 1,000 times, is that, although there's more information in the marketplace today than ever before, Americans are worse off than they've ever been. And the reason for that is very simple. Information without education always, always, always leads to failure. So when it comes to retirement, my rule of thumb for my clients is the KISS rule. Keep it simple and stupid. Because in the book that I wrote, which I highly recommend to all of you, it's called Retirement Paradigms, Managing Retirement Risks in the 21st Century. If you understand how to manage, first of all, if you can identify your financial risks, and then you're able to manage those risks effectively and efficiently, then chances are your life is going to be a lot better. Your retirement life is going to be a lot better than if you don't understand your retirement risks. Because in the situation of my cousin, now I have to deal with a number of retirement risks that he never thought that we're going to have to deal with so early at his age, being 61 years of age. Now I have to deal with a lot of those issues, not only with his wife, but also with his child as well, along those lines. So how do you keep retirement simple? How do you get to truly understand retirement risk? Well, I can tell you right off the bat that, for most Americans, there are 4 major retirement risks that they need to be able to address and be able to guard against when it comes to their financial life. And that is the risk of dying too soon, which is something that just happened to my cousin. The risk of living too long, because Americans are living a lot longer today than they ever did before. So that comes with a number of other challenges and, by the same token, opportunities along those lines. The risk of living with a disability. And then last but not least is the risk of living with eroding factors. Factors like taxation, inflation, stock market volatility, interest rate volatility, propensity to consume, financial fees, all of those issues that can happen if you're living with eroding factors. And the better you do at managing those factors, the more money you're going to be left with at the end of the day in order for you to have a successful retirement life. Now, the risk of dying too soon is a critical one, because no one ever wants to talk about death. Not only is it important to be able to have a conversation about death, but it's also extremely important to understand the impact of your individual death to your family and to your estate. Because at the end of the day, life insurance is something that, that has to be in place if you want to protect your family from the risk of dying too soon. In the case of my cousin, obviously, he had insurance, probably not enough. I would tell you one thing that is very critical of all the planning and of all the death benefits that I have delivered over the years is that A, no one ever dies at the right time. B, I've never met a widow that did not believe in life insurance. And then C, most of the time it's not enough. Because life insurance is a type of product that most Americans don't truly understand. And when they don't understand it, they just want to buy the minimum or the most amount of death benefit for the least amount of premium, or the minimum amount of death benefit for the most amount of premium. But nevertheless, most Americans do not understand insurance and what it is that it does. And if you need a product that will deliver to your family and deliver to you at the point in time when you need it the most, there's only one product in the world that can do that, and that is life insurance. Now, I hear people telling me, well, Bert, I don't believe in life insurance. Well, number one, life insurance is not a religion, so you don't have to believe in it. Life insurance is a financial instrument, and it's an instrument that will give you a known amount on a guaranteed basis if you do it the right way at a known time. And because of the fact that no one knows when your last day on earth is going to be, then you need to have that protection. And then obviously, how do you gauge it? How do you manage it? How do you determine the amount of risk that you need to offset? What company are you going to use? What product are you going to use? How are you going to segment the different life insurance contracts that you may need? So those are things that are very critically important. But at the end of the day, if you do a fairly good job in managing the risk of dying too soon, then you're going to be able to have peace of mind, and your family will be able to enjoy the same along those lines. Now, the second risk, and once again, we've talked about this before, but when something like this, like what happened with my cousin, happens, it kind of brings me back to the basics, and the more that you can understand the basics, the better it's going to be. So the risk of living too long, as I said at the onset, people are living a lot longer today than ever before. What used to kill us 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 years ago is no longer doing that. Now, it may leave you disabled, and that would be another conversation, but it's not killing you anymore. So if you live long enough, a lot of the issues that we're talking about will happen to you anyways. The risk of living with eroding factors, the longer you live, the higher the inflation, the higher the taxes, the higher the propensity to consume. You want to get to a point in your life where you don't run out of money before you run out of life, and that's important to note. And this is why there's a tremendous amount of planning that must be done in order to protect yourself and your family from the risk of living too long. What kind of investments do you make? Do you buy stocks, bonds, mutual funds? Do you put a lot of money into qualified accounts or non-qualified or tax-free accounts? Well, there's not a right answer for everyone because it all depends on your finances. It depends on your individual circumstances. And it also depends on your ability to gauge and to manage risk. But those are things that need to be paid attention to. And as you get older, I think it would behoove you to make certain that you're protecting the risk of dying too soon and the risk of living too long. Now, the next risk kind of goes hand in hand many a times with the risk of living too long, is the risk of living with a disability. Because once again, what used to kill us before is no longer killing us, but it may leave us disabled. Probably anywhere between 22 to 25% of retirees today are disabled. Now they could have cancer. They have had many of them have had strokes, heart attacks. They may have Parkinson's. They may have Alzheimer's. So as you get older, the human body starts to deteriorate, and it becomes a very expensive proposition for most Americans. Now, if you're living comfortably based on your retirement income today, you also have to factor the fact that what if you or your family, your immediate family member, becomes disabled? Are you going to have the financial means to be able to pay for the additional cost of dealing with a long-term disability? Most Americans have done very little planning to any planning at all when it comes to living with a disability. And this is why I see a lot of these issues when I do financial plans for my clients. And by the way, many of the clients that I deal with today have had other advisors that they have worked with over the years. And because they have had other advisors that they have worked with over the years, they have done planning. But whenever I do an audit of any of those plannings, all of these issues that I'm talking to you about come to the forefront because very little planning has been done along those lines. Now, sometimes it's the fault of the advisor, sometimes it's the fault of the client. Most of the time it's a combination of both, because most financial advisors in the marketplace are not tax planners and or risk managers, so they really don't know how to manage risk. And then the last risk that I want to touch upon today is the risk of living with eroding factors, which is the taxes, inflation, stock market volatility, interest rate volatility, and so forth. Please bear in mind that in the tax world that we're living today in the United States, things can only get worse. Why? Because we have the highest debt that we have ever had in the history of our country. So therefore, the only way that the U.S. government is going to be able to offset the debt is by increasing taxes. And they're going to have to increase the taxes all across the board. And even if your personal income taxes don't go up, internally they will, because most of the companies that you're doing business with, because their taxes are going to be higher, they're going to have to start increasing their own taxes for the products and services and goods that they sell to the consumer every single day. So eventually, they're going to be passing on that tax liability to each and every one of us, which we happen to be consumers in this world that we live in. So, and then on top of that, obviously, inflation is going through the roof in 2021. The tax law that Biden wants to pass, obviously, is going through Congress now. No one knows, what percentage of it is going to pass, to what extent, what's going to be the impact on the average American, and so forth. But these are things that all of us need to pay attention to, because once again, you want to be ahead of the curve. You don't want these tax liabilities to come down the pike to be effective January 1 of 2022 and or going retroactive to January 1 of 2021, and you find yourself totally flat-footed without any options on your side of the table. So once again, whenever I kind of talk about these things, I want to continue to embark upon bringing some new information to you, because at the end of the day, if I were someone that have not done a lot of planning, or you did your planning several years ago and you really haven't reviewed your plan, I think it would be important for you to start doing some due diligence and take a look at what is that you have done in the area of dying too soon. What have you done in the area of living too long? What have you done in the area of living with a disability? And then what have you done in the area of living with eroding factors? And if you feel comfortable with the decisions that you have made, then congratulations and good for you. You've done a decent job. But if you don't feel comfortable about either all of those areas and or any one of those areas, then I think it would be very important for you to start to addressing those issues today, because remember, there's always a price for doing something, and there's a price for doing nothing. My experience has shown that the price of doing something, it's always cheaper than the price of doing nothing. So for those of you that want to get a hold of me at any point in time, and please thank you once again for all the emails and the text messages that I receive and the questions that I get asked often. But you can also reach out to me at area code 786-766-1042. You can also send me an email at Bert, B-E-R-T, at bertsalazar.com, BERTSALAZAR.com. And always remember that my goal for you and for your family is to kind of help you change the way that you see things, because when you change the way that you see things, the things that you see change. So once again, thanks very much for giving me a few minutes of your time today, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.